I don't have time right now, but I feel like
It is 6 p.m. and the City Council meeting is called to order. Councilman Baruti is going to lead in prayer and in the pledge. If you'll stand and bow your heads.
Dear Lord, thank you for another wonderful day here in Kerrville on the right side of the grass. Please help us to understand that we're to abide in you and have your word abide in us. And if we do so, then you will grant us what we come to you with in question. And if you would please watch over our proceedings and give us the wisdom that we need to do what's best for Kerrville, not what's best for any individual, but what's best for all in the aggregate. And please just help us to be more open to the ideas as they're presented and not focus so much on the personalities. In these things we ask from you in Jesus' name, amen.
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 I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Stumbled through that.
I want you to know that there is one item on the agenda that has been pulled, and that is item 5A, and it will be scheduled for consideration at a later time. Let me remind you that if you're going to speak tonight, that you need to fill out a speaker's form over at the city secretary's desk. And also, I want to tell you, if you decide you want to speak on an item, on an agenda item, but you have not filled out a form, before you speak, you need to do that. And also that anyone who speaks is to be recognized. And I want to remind everyone just about the decorum of this meeting, so that we don't have side comments or outbursts or that kind of thing. Now let's go to announcements of community interest. Stuart?
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here tonight. We just had two very quick announcements about things that are going on this week. The first one, the library is hosting Blind Date with a Book. This helps match readers with authors and genres that they may pass over ordinarily when they're looking for something to read. And this program is going to be unveiled Thursday, Valentine's Day. To participate, you just browse the personal ads attached to each book, select your reading, and then take it home and read it. And I think they're also looking for reviews. If you don't like the book, if it doesn't create sparks, you just return it. No feelings will be hurt. The blind date display, as I said, starts on Valentine's Day and runs through February 28th. Gentlemen, if you are going to do this on Valentine's Day, it does not take the place of taking your spouses out to dinner. You will be reading that book alone if you do. Also, this Saturday is the Daddy-Daughter Sweetheart Dance. I know we've talked about this a couple of times. This is just a really fun event. We have sold out tickets. So this is, I think we did this, well, we've done this for how many years now? 11th year to do it. 2 years ago, we had 250 people. Last year, we moved it to the Hill Country Youth Event Center, and we had 500 people. We've added another 10% this year. We have 550. So that's going to be a big fun event, and we'll have photos from that. Be sure and check our Facebook page next week if you want to see something. And that'll do it. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else with an item of community interest? Remember, this is not time to express opinions or go into policy matters. It's community interest.
I would, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I'd like to offer kudos to two groups. One is Playhouse 2000. I just think they have gone above and beyond this year. There's just all kinds of things they're offering, and I would just like to say thank you to them for everything that they're bringing to our community. It's exciting. And my second kudo is to Parks and Rec. If you have not seen their new brochure, this is just outstanding. So great job, you guys, and keep up the good work. And there's lots of them out there. Take them with you back to your businesses. Give them to neighbors, new people, people at work. Spread the word.
All right, good. Okay.
I wanted to piggyback on the Playhouse 2000. We have a Dinner with the Stars the Playhouse 2000 puts on. It's our annual fundraiser, and it's March 23rd, Saturday, March 23rd. It's an excellent opportunity to have dinner with all those stars that you saw perform throughout the year. It's a lovely affair. The dinner is catered by Rails. We have a live auction that people fight over every year. We actually go into the theater after dinner, and a lot of the stars do a little excerpt from their previous performance. It's very entertaining. I encourage you to check it out on our website, Saturday, March 23rd. Thank you.
All right, good. Okay, we come now to the Visitors Citizens Forum. Again, let me remind you, this is not a time to discuss or take any action on an item, but you've got 4 minutes to talk, and if you so choose. All right, let's move on. We have a series of presentations. Mrs. McElhannon, would you share the first with us?
Certificate of Recognition for Madeline Munoz for her heroic and life-saving actions during a fire in her home on January 22nd, 2019.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. I want to ask Chief Wes Gordon with the Turtle Creek Volunteer Fire Department to join me at the podium. While he's coming, I've spent over 30 years in the fire service, and I've always heard that firefighters are heroes. But today we want to pause to recognize a true hero in our community. Around midnight on January the 22nd, we assisted the Turtle Creek Volunteer Fire Department on a structure fire in South Kerrville. On arrival, we found a residential structure that was totally engulfed in smoke and flames. And once we got extinguished, to our surprise, we were notified that the occupants had escaped with no injuries. And it was only because 10-year-old Madeline Munoz remembered all that we had taught her during Fire Prevention Week at Nimitz Elementary. She alerted her family members. She got on her hands and knees and exited the fire, went next door to her grandmother's house, and called 911. And it's because of her quick thinking and heroic efforts that her and her family are with us today. So, Madeline, I want to ask you and your buddy to come up front for just a second. I've got a recognition for you. If I could also get the Turtle Creek Volunteer Fire Department in Kerrville to join while I would read the recognition to Madeline. And it says, this certificate of recognition is presented to Madeline Munoz, who is 10 years old and live in the 100 block of Spring Meadow. Around 12:43 on Tuesday, January the 22nd, 2019, Madeline awoke from sleep, noticing smoke. Madeline yelled at the top of her voice, "Mom, wake up, there's a fire." The Nimitz Elementary fourth grader memorized the training during Fire Prevention Week, which was provided by the Kerrville Fire Department. She alerted people in the house to the danger. She dropped to her hands and knees to crawl beneath the smoke, and she tapped the doorknob to ensure that it wouldn't burn her hand. She escaped the danger and found a safe place to call 911. She told emergency personnel that she learned how to prepare for a fire scenario at school. Due to these heroic efforts and life-saving actions, the City of Kerrville and the Kerrville Fire Department commend this citizen for her quick thinking in this emergency situation, and we would like to crown you Fire Chief for a day.
Hey guys, can I put this with me?
I got their picture.
One more.
halfway joking, but it's a little tough to top that, so I move that we adjourn the meeting right now.
Adjourn the meeting.
Let's just approve
Well, I
everything.
asked the city manager today if we were agreed on everything, we could just have one vote, say yes and go home. Okay. Ms. McElhannon, if you will read our next recognition.
Certificate of recognition for Matthew Zapata for obtaining a Class A wastewater treatment operator license.
Okay, welcome everyone. This is one of the best things I get to do is recognize our very talented and dedicated employees, and so I have two of those tonight. The first one is for Matthew Zapata. Matthew, come on up. So Matthew is our wastewater collection superintendent, and I learned something new about Matthew today. Matthew was actually delivered in his home by Dr. Speck. And so he said, "Is this the Matthew Zapata there?" I said, yeah, I think so. So we put two and two together, and so thank you, Dr. Speck, for bringing us. So this is a big deal because there are very few Class A wastewater licenses granted in the entire state. We have one of them right here with Matthew, and so this is very technical operation in terms of our wastewater system, the plant, and then also the collection system. Matthew is over the collection system. So I'm just going to read this, Matthew. Obtaining a Class A wastewater treatment operator's license is a significant achievement. It requires various skills and years of experience. Matthew has served 17 years with the City of Kerrville Public Works Department and has proven his dedication. Matthew was recently promoted to a superintendent where he now manages the wastewater collections division. Matthew will utilize his license to ensure that the division is operating in compliance with regulatory requirements while protecting public health. Matthew is a highly valued asset to the community, and his professional achievement has earned him this recognition. Matthew, we really appreciate the contributions to us very much.
Congratulations, and thank you very much.
Okay, one more. Equally significant, we have an individual that has gone out in a very short period of time to get some certification. As you all know, part of our economy, a significant portion, something like 30%, is related to tourism. And so events are a big deal in Kerrville. And so I'm going to ask Rosa Ledesma to please come on up, and I will read this recognition for her. She's our Parks and Recreation Specialist. So she's now a Certified Festival and Event Association individual. The certification program is a 2-year program by the National Recreation and Parks Association's Event Management School and the International Festival and Events Association. The program covers the basics of successful event management and an applied knowledge project environment. Topics include event management, budgeting, marketing, risk management, and event inclusion and accessibility. So again, professionalism of our staff is something that we really I focus on a lot in this organization and put the dedicated resources that we need toward them. And Rosa took advantage of those, and we appreciate her for doing that. So help me to congratulate Rosa.
Congratulations.
That's great. Okay, we now move to the consent agenda. These are routine in nature, and I would like to ask for a motion in regard to what you want to do with 4A through 4F.
I move, Mr. Mayor, that we adopt or accept all of the consent agenda as presented.
All right.
I'll second it.
All right, we've got a motion second. All in favor, let it be known by the raised hand. Okay, and no opposition, it carries 5-0. Okay, next, minutes for the city council on January 8th.
That's part of the consent.
Part of the consent
Oh, I'm
agenda,
sorry, I'm
so.
sorry. You're right.
Good on
Yeah,
five now.
4E, 4F, got it. Okay. We don't have a public hearing because we don't have the HEB item. Ordinances, first reading, Ms. McElhannon on that 6A.
Ordinance 2019-04, amending Chapter 58, Health and Sanitation, Article 2, Food Establishments of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Kerrville, Texas, by repealing the existing Article 2 and adopting a new Article 2, which will adopt the Texas Food Establishment Rules, adopt local amendments to said rules, and provide for the regulation of mobile food units, food trucks, containing a cumulative clause, containing a savings and severability clause, providing a penalty, and providing other matters relating to the subject.
All right, Mr. Paxton.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a repeal and replace of Chapter 58 for the food safety rules, both for restaurants and fixed locations, mobile food trucks, and temporary events. The overall goal was to match up the state food rules with the 2015 adopted Texas Food Establishment Rules, and to improve the process for permitting the mobile food trucks and temporary events that we have for different special events around town. Again, this is adopting the Texas Food Establishment Rules from 2015, the state requirements, and incorporating some of our local amendments. On the mobile food units, we've removed the peddler's permit requirement, removed the fee per location, and removed the 1-year lease requirement that was in our previous ordinance, and moving towards a single permit for mobile food units and a single yearly permit for temporary events for some of our special events around town for celebrations and holidays. With that, I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
All right. Okay, I'm going to start with place one. Mr. Vogel, any questions?
Not quite at this moment. I'm still comparing this to a lot of other cities just to see what they're doing differently. But I've kind of passed some things along to Mr. Hayes, and he's already addressed those. So I'll should have more questions throughout the next couple weeks.
Okay. All right. Mr. Broody?
One's just a sort of housekeeping question, I guess, for Mr. Hayes. But so part of what we're doing is adding, I guess, a bunch of definitions, 228.2 and then 153 through something or other. Just a suggestion, but the state code that we're trying to model ends, I guess, with 152. And so maybe put a big gap in between what we number so that if they change the state, we're not unintentionally overriding, you know what I'm saying? If they create a 153.
If they add definitions?
Yeah, if they add them and they do the numbering. So like create a big gap so that when they add them, our
We won't be right up
amendments
next
aren't
to it.
actually
No.
overridden. But the other is some in the, I don't know what part it is, B, something that talks about food and food handling, matching chapter 228, and these are, I guess, some amendments. 57, 228.257. It was hard to figure out what is the reasoning for, in A, it said, it used to say, or the state one says, satellite or catered food feeding locations, catering operations, and we removed that, and I was just kind of curious if we had a goal in mind why we did that. You know what I'm saying?
So 228.257A.
57A. It says a restaurant, retail, food store, and then it jumps to market. It actually is removing from the state satellite or catered food feeding locations, catering operations, and I was just curious if we had a reasoning behind why we did that.
We don't have a separate catering license, so that'd be part of a food establishment. Trina, do we have any other requirements other than the catering add-on permit, but as part of the food establishment
I mean,
permit?
we could have left it in, is what I'm saying, right? Or no? Anyways, it was just a question. And then the other thing is with the food trucks themselves, so the mobile food units, looking at it, one of the things that I was hoping it would allow for, correct me if I'm wrong, is the idea of a food court. You know, someplace. So if I'm reading it right, as presented, we're requiring them to move every 72 hours, right?
That's correct.
What does that entail? Like, what says they've moved it? Do they have to take it somewhere in particular, or what constitutes that?
Right. So that would be setting up for 72 hours for an event or, you know, a sales weekend, working with the local vendors that have worked in Kerrville and the surrounding area. One of their big takeaways was that they typically would set up on a Thursday or Friday, work through the weekend and break down Sunday, go back to their home location, clean, process, restock, and get ready for the next weekend.
Okay.
So they felt that 72-hour window allowed them enough time to operate on their normal mobile process. Looking at a food park, then we start getting more into land use and zoning requirements.
Is that what other cities do? They
Yes.
zone it as a land use?
Correct.
So a
Because
food
then you're
court.
looking at a permanent location for those food trucks to be operating. And they'll, through that food truck park, establish a separate set of rules that allow them to either park longer term,
Right.
or they leave periodically for that clean and replenish their supplies and come back.
So they've zoned, those things are zoned as a, however they're doing it. That spot is a food court spot, and then they license the different people to use it. And they don't require those to move, really, right?
Typically, right.
Okay, so that gets to the next question I had. Did we look at considering that sort of like a big city would do, where they essentially, they don't permit food trucks, just permit food. They have certain areas where they want food trucks to be, and I license you to use that spot for a year or whatever it is. Like, you know,
Right.
did we look at that, or?
We try to stay more broad than that. Since we don't have a large interest in a food truck park, we are looking more specifically at the entire city. We're allowing them basically in a non-residential district, not near a school without the school's permission, so that it is open up to the entire city.
If I was a person wanting to do that, say I want to own a food truck and I want to come to the city and pick a spot that the city owns, how would I do that did I just get turned down out of hand, or is there a process in which I can apply for that?
We have a separate process for parks basically a contract with the Parks Department to operate in a park.
So individual contracts is what
Right.
it would be, okay.
And then a permanent location, then you start getting into issues with the building code, because
Right.
you've then circumvented the building code with the food truck. So their state code and the local adoption here requires that a mobile food unit remain mobile. Once it's looked at as a permanent location, then we're kind of getting into some different territory.
All right.
Let me ask you a couple of things in terms of the modifications. On the central preparation facility, so as the state has done, we would potentially give a variance to that?
That's correct. So the TFER, or the Texas Food Establishment Rules, requires the mobile unit to have a central prep facility where they go keep their supplies. That is inspected by the health department as well as the truck itself. Some of the newer trucks that are more or less self-contained, rather than stock a central location, they stock directly to the truck, maintain their refrigeration, and so on. If they can meet those health requirements, the state has allowed a waiver or a variance process, and we've adopted a similar process that the health inspector can review the truck through the inspection process and make sure that all those health and safety concerns are being met.
Right, in terms of, one other modification is, excuse me, fire safety expectations. And you don't have to spell those out. I'm just saying that is something that we have said in addition to the state code.
That's correct.
Okay. Then the other one, the fee schedule for the mobile food units, lowering the overall fees to obtain an annual permit, believing that in this setting, we need to lower those fees some in order for people to operate?
The that was one of the large complaints from the local vendors, is current code requires the peddler's permit, which is a $600 fee per year, either a 1-year lease or a per location fee of $150, and the health permit. So this is looking at just the inspection process of the mobile food unit, multiple inspections per year, similar to a restaurant, and the fee recommendation is about $225 total per year.
Okay, all right, good, good. That's all I have, Ms. Eichner.
Okay, the mayor asked two of my questions on cost and the permitting with out of a separate place. How many licenses do we have for food trucks now on the books? Do you know?
Zero currently.
We have none.
Correct. Most of the mobile food trucks that we do see have been going under a single event permit for the special events around town. So that's an application and inspection process per event, per truck, so that this would allow those trucks to come in and get an annual permit and, a handful of inspections per year.
Okay. And if they can operate within the city, can they then also operate in the county? Or is that the county would fall under?
The county would fall under the state jurisdiction.
Okay. How many code enforcement people do we have to do this kind of thing?
We have one full-time health inspector and then 2 code officers that have also helped out with the health inspections for those special events.
Okay, thank you.
They stay pretty busy, I hear, too.
Yes, ma'am.
I had 2 questions I got answered before this meeting tonight, but it had to do with an annual inspection of the propane appliances in the mobile food unit, and I was just curious if annual was enough, and the fire chief said yes, he thinks it is. And then I had a question about the grading. If you have an A grade, everything's great. My question was, if you have a B, does that mean it's serious enough to act on, or what would be an example of something that would be a B grade, wouldn't affect people's, endanger people for temperature of food, or I'm just curious about what would cause the grade to be from an A to a B.
It's based on the number of demerits or the number of violations during that inspection. Anything that is a major violation is corrected immediately.
Okay.
During those inspections.
That's what I had been told. I just want to make sure I had my
And
facts
then
right.
anything below a C is
Automatically,
suspension
right.
of the permit.
And that's posted, always posted on
Yes.
their mobile
And
food unit.
The health permit and the grading card should be posted both restaurants and the mobile food trucks.
Great.
Okay. Before we go to speakers, I got one other thing. I had been told, or a complaint, that the city didn't like food trucks and didn't want food trucks in Kerrville. And what I have seen and what I've said is, no, we're going to have food trucks. Let's make real sure that we have got the health and safety issues down and the restrictions and everything else. And once that's there, then we're go.
That's correct.
Okay, do we have any speakers to this issue?
No, sir.
No, okay, all right.
I would make a motion that we pass ordinance 2019-04 on first reading.
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor, raise hand. And any opposed, no. And it passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I'd just like to make one little thing. Can we let Trina go home so she can pick up her kid? Would that be possible?
I'm glad you are.
The reason I had to ask is because her kid's being watched by my wife, and it's probably not a safe thing, so we need to let her go.
Oh, come on. Yes. Yeah, I know you're very sensitive to the staff, and so. Okay, 7A, was Michael Hannon?
Ordinance 2019-05, amending Chapter 2, Administration, Article 4, Boards and Commissions, Section 2-91, Senior Services Advisory Committee of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Kerrville, Texas, by amending subsections A1 and A2 to increase the membership of this committee to 16 members containing a cumulative clause, containing a savings and severability clause, and providing other matters related to this subject.
All right. Just a point of clarification and reminder. When we appointed the Senior Services Advisory Committee, we had 16 names. We went with the first 13, and then we had the motion of, this is a good group, let's add these other 3 to those 13. And so that's what we're looking at. And the additional 3 are Teresa Standage, Carla Weber, and Mike Wilson. All right.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 2019-05 to approve the additional members to the Senior Services Advisory Committee.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion second.
Can I ask a question
Yeah.
before we, it's just a clarification. So looking at the packet, we got presented the board sheet, and I don't know if that's an official document or what that is, but the board sheet still says 13 members and a quorum being 7. If that's something we're supposed to correct, if we could just correct that.
I think it'll be modified after tonight.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. We have a motion second. All in favor, if you let me know by the raised hand, and that is unanimous. Okay. 8A, Ms. McElhannon.
Operations agreement for the Kathleen E. Callow City Center for the Performing Arts between the City of Kerrville, Texas, and Playhouse 2000.
Okay. Mr. Hoppy?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Happy to present to you today a contractual agreement that we have worked through, operating agreement that we've worked through with Playhouse 2000 and their staff and board over a number of months. Essentially, we were operating under a decades-old agreement that was actually drafted prior to the construction of the current facility back from when it was the general auditorium. And so there was significant cleanup that was needed, not only to address, really delete out a lot of the construction-related elements, but also match up with the way that we're currently operating and the current maintenance practices embodied by both parties. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Any questions? I'm going to start again in place 1.
Or is the city participating more by funding? Is there like more funding in this agreement than there was previously? What's the difference?
So previously, there've been a number of iterations and funding increases over the years. Most recently, the funding level was at about a $50,000 contribution as well as utilities. This basically rolls into one lump payment that would be split between a guaranteed $50,000 and then a $50,000 that comes so long as additional support is sought by some other source for Playhouse 2000. So essentially they get it $50,000 from some other entity, and we would not match it per se, but it would come after that period of time. So in total, $100,000 from the city of Kerrville.
And we were paying half the utilities, and now we're not paying any utilities. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Seems like a more simple way to do things.
Yeah.
It just seems more simple that way to keep up with it.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Brody?
So just to clarify kind of this last point, so prior to this agreement, roughly what was the city contributing?
It varied from year to year because there was the utility component, but on average, it was probably in total a contribution between $70,000 and $80,000 on average any given year.
And this one, like you said on the last part, the $50,000 is going directly, boom, done. And then the second $50,000 is a matching thing. So correct. So if they somehow didn't get $50,000 from private donors, then they wouldn't get $50,000 from us, right?
It has to come from any other source, so it wouldn't necessarily have to be donors per se, but it's meant to embody that the city has an expectation that Playhouse 2000 isn't just solely being provided for by the city, but that they are seeking other outside sources.
If it's not a donor, what would it be? Like a grant or something, you mean?
Ticket sales or something?
Could be any number of those activities.
Ticket sales is part of it?
Yes, sir, it could be.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways.
Okay, I'm going to pass for now. Ms. Eigner?
No, I thought the cleanup looked good, and it looks like It's easy to understand. I like that part. And I think it's a great investment. People walk in for the first time and they're just excited about the theater and the way it looks, and we're just blessed to have it. So I think this is good. Thanks for cleaning it up.
I would just say thank you to everyone who was involved, because there were many meetings, and I think we were covered them very thoroughly. And it was a great partnership. We had a great rapport about our ideas and our thoughts and concerns, and I just really applaud all of you for coming together and putting it into an agreement that's going to last, I think, for a long time, and keep this wonderful venue that we have running. The lights on, the air conditioning on, the heat on when you need it, and the whole thing that it takes to run the show. So, thank you.
Just a couple of comments before we move to the vote. One is, I'm not sure I'd ever realized this before, but there are people who consider moving here, and a big factor is what are the cultural events that they could enjoy here. And they find really more than they would expect of a town of 25,000. Just a personal word. I took our 4-year-old daughter and her friend, who is deaf, to the ballet, and the joy on those little girls' faces just made it all worthwhile. But anyway, all right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Have we made a motion?
Yeah, there you go.
I'll make a motion that we authorize the city manager to finalize and execute this agreement.
I'll second.
There you go. Okay. All right. All in favor of that motion, raise your hand. Okay. Thank you. It's unanimous. I will, excuse me when I get ahead, and I want to vote before we have a motion. Okay. All right. 8B, application for project funding requests.
Application for project funding request to the Kerrville Economic Improvement Corporation regarding downtown parking garage and streetscape.
Okay. Wanted to bring forward an item tonight directly related to a specific item that was outlined within your Kerrville 2050 comprehensive plan related to downtown revitalization and encouraging programming in downtown public events. Specifically, item D 4.6, which is enhancing the access, functionality, and safety of the downtown parking garage. As we've brought forth this group on several occasions, as well as the Economic Improvement Corporation on several occasions. There has been a plan, a conceptual plan that has been developed by Peter Lewis Architects really over a number of years to enhance really the aesthetic as well as the safety and functionality of the downtown parking garage. We've just completed or in the process of wrapping up a number of deferred maintenance items, about $650,000 worth of deferred maintenance items in the parking garage, as well as enhancing the aesthetic elements of the interior of the garage. And so now we'd like to bring this application forward to you to seek authorization, if you choose to, for us to go in front of the EIC to look at those elements on the exterior of the building that would include the elements that were outlined within the scope of work for you. Those include the photomural graphics, water street side, perimeter street level upgrades, canvas awnings, landscaping and irrigation elements, various streetscape accessories that would better match the overall downtown area, as well as a signage allowance that will help enhance the degree which we're able to advertise that it is a free public access garage. Looking at crosswalk enhancements, clay and water, and then also interior decorative pedestrian lighting interior to the building that will, again, enhance both the aesthetic as well as the safety element and really encourage use of the downtown garage for parking throughout the downtown area. So I would be happy to answer any questions you may have on this topic.
Let's go again, and I'm going to start over here.
I like the list. I think we whittled it down from $800,000, I think. So
yes,
we tried to pick our priority items, and I think lighting and all of those things will really enhance use of the garage, which is what we want to increase. And, if we could add a little sign when you enter that just says what level you park on to get to the catwalk. into the elevator.
We are in the process of actually doing that sign interior right now, and so it's
Great.
being made. We just haven't had it
Oh
installed
my gosh,
yet.
did you
so.
read my mind? Can you do that more often?
We'll
Thank
try
you.
our best.
Thank you. No, I think it's a good list, and I think we talked about it quite a bit in our workshop, so.
Thank you.
All right.
No, I too feel we've whittled it down to the most important things, and just making it more user-friendly is just so necessary, and I think a lot of these things are going to do that. So I'm glad to see it, and we're money conscious as we've been doing that. So maybe if we win the lottery someday, we can finish it out. But right now, I think we've done well. So
Looks good to me. I'm particularly glad about more lighting. Women particularly say, I don't want to go into a dark parking garage, but and the other things, some security cameras and so forth, just so it is safer and people feel safer. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Broody.
So yeah, we did whittle down the thing. I guess I was a little. I thought we had whittled it down to something close to 250,000, and I'm not sure what we're asking to apply for here, but the agenda bill throws out 350, and the subtotal is like 306 or 309 or something.
Yes, sir. We did have an element of contingency that was in there on top of what was identified within this piece. And that's just simply to provide a little bit of buffer, not knowing this is for construction documents. And so as we're able to kind of hone in better on that estimate and go through the bidding process, it's just to give a little bit of buffer so we wouldn't have to go back to EIC. Certainly if the project comes in under budget, which we would hope that it would be, then we're able to refund that money back to the EIC.
Well, the list we were given has a subtotal that already added a couple of contingencies, and that came to 306.
It's a very small amount. It was at about 12% contingency. We usually budget for about a 25% contingency.
Yeah, well, it added it twice. It's a different 12%.
The other element was overhead and profit, which is just trying to get an estimate for where bids will come at.
So answer me, originally when council looked at parking garage enhancements, I believe they budgeted something like 786,000 or something like that.
Yes, sir.
What you told us is that we've spent so far, you threw out the number 650. So
No, I'm sorry. That is a completely separate project. The deferred maintenance project was not out of that EIC budget at all.
So the 786 has been unused.
That's correct.
Is what you're saying.
That's currently in a project fund for EIC. They've been kind of pigeonholing money back over a number of years.
Okay, so what fund did we spend the 650 out of?
It was within our capital projects, general fund capital projects.
All right,
for
good
the
enough.
city.
That's fine.
All right. Mr. Vogel?
Can you kind of describe what the crosswalk's going to look like?
No, sir. At this point, we don't have that fully designed yet. We have done a little bit of preliminary conceptual work with an engineering firm. As you know, we went through and completed kind of a restriping of clay and water, and we feel like that functionality has been enhanced greatly. What we were envisioning was some type of stamped concrete that would actually provide both a tactile surface as well as a visual representation at that intersection.
Crossing water and clay, or just one street, or?
If we can afford to cross both of those, we will do so. We just have to
Like
see
to
how
put-
bids come in.
I'd like to put the priority on Water Street if we could.
Yes, sir. Understood.
The other question is, do the restrictions allow for all these enhancements, restrictions on the property?
I'm sorry, the deed restrictions? Yes, sir. We'll simply have to go back to the previous owner and make sure that, the final construction documents and what is being presented are acceptable. But yes, sir, we think that what's been outlined will be acceptable within the deed restrictions.
We talk to them at all about any of this, or is that?
Some preliminary conversations. Certainly, they looked at the old conceptual drawings that were created, and these match up with those. They're just not to the full extent of what was outlined in those conceptual drawings.
Okay.
Vincent, what didn't get in here was my suggestion of doing a zip line across clay over to your building. That hadn't made it.
It's still there.
We have a motion in regard to this.
I move that we direct staff to go ahead and apply for the project funding request to the EIC.
I'll second it.
All right, we've got a motion second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, let me know by the raised hand. All right, and it's unanimous. Okay. 8C, McElhannon.
Resolution 06, 2019, granting a petition requesting the voluntary annexation of an approximate 35.05 acre tract of land out of the S. Wallace Survey Number 114, Abstract Number 348, and the S. Wallace Survey Number 113, Abstract Number 347, said tract located within Kerr County, Texas, and the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city of Kerrville, Texas, consisting of property line adjacent to State Highway Loop 534, and ordering the preparation of an annexation ordinance.
All right,
Thank you, Mayor.
tell us about it.
This is a resolution to accept the petition from KISD. This is the site identified for the middle school after the passing of the bond election in November. This is a Kerrville 2050 item under Public Facilities and Services, specifically a 9.3 to target public investment for facilities and infrastructure towards areas where mixed use and redevelopment is desired. On January 25th, KISD filed the petition, which gives council 30 days to accept or deny that petition, which starts the annexation process. And your backup, you have a draft calendar. Petition resolution tonight, February 12th. Planning and Zoning Commission for zoning recommendation on March 21st. The first public hearing for City Council will be on your workshop at April 16th. Second public hearing, April 23rd for regular scheduled meeting. First reading of the ordinance, May 14th, and second reading of the ordinance, May 28th. And that would fit KISD's time frame for their construction and design process for the middle school.
Okay, want to ask other council members, but I don't know if you got the map up there, but this will be across the road from the high school and just a little bit north.
That is correct. So it'd be the intersection of the high school would be the extension of Olympic Drive, and this would be north of that intersection, across the loop from the high school. That is correct.
Oh, okay, yeah, right, right, all right. Okay, Mr. Vogel.
Is there a reason why we're not including Olympic Drive in the annexation?
This is actually just the petition request, which is just the property owned by KISD. Working through some of the statutory requirements in state law, if we can include the right-of-way. But this is just their petition request. So since they don't own the road, they can't ask to be annexed.
We'll be doing a follow-up annexation request and possibly even including Shriner's property, so we have it all brought in.
And will there need to be any utilities extended, or is everything in place?
If I'm not mistaken, water is in place, but there will be maybe water and sewer extensions. that would be
Sewer's going to
required.
have to be extended up Olympic Drive.
Okay. That's all I got, Mayor.
All right. Mr.
Good.
Brady?
I'm good.
Okay. Tiger?
I'm excited. I'm good.
Okay.
I had questions on my Monday meeting and we got answered, not many at all, but thank you. Drew actually drove me to Olympic, showed me, I asked him to just take me around to look at several properties and he was nice enough to do so. And it makes a world of difference when you can see firsthand. You know, I get a good idea from the aerial, but it just really helps. So thank you very much for giving me that guided tour.
Good, good. Okay,
Motion that we pass resolution 06-2019 to begin the annexation of the property of the proposed middle school.
all right.
Second.
Okay, okay. Got a motion second. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, and it's unanimous.
Thank you.
All right. We come to board appointments. Appointments to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Ms. McElhann, if you'll read that in for us.
Appointments to the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Yes. There you go. All right, okay. And I'm going to let Mrs.
Very nice, by the way.
Good job, yeah. I'm going to let Mrs. Siegerman
Well,
report for the interview team.
the two members on this board that are expiring have asked to be reappointed. Mr. Danny Almond and Robert Irvin. And Peter Lewis's term has expired and he is not eligible to be reappointed. So I would like to make a motion that we do reappoint Mr. Almond, Mr. Irvin, and then at the same time move Pablo up to the vacancy that Peter Lewis leaves. And as far as the alternates, I would like to postpone making those appointments tonight so that we can advertise those openings more for the next 2 weeks and possibly address it at our next council meeting.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
That is a motion.
I think I said I make a motion.
I second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Postponing part of the motion, or is that is postponing the alternates a part of the motion, or is that just suggestion?
No, I would say it would be part of the motion.
Yeah.
And whatever we need to do to advertise, if I need to authorize or request more than what I'm doing this evening, let me know. Otherwise, I just want to make one more broad advertisement for the openings.
Can we, because we advertised for this, did we not?
I don't think so.
Yeah, because it was out, we put out a press release, I know. I don't know that it was advertised in the paper, but we did advertise them. I'd really like to see us use the applications that we have to fill what we can. I like the appointments that you made. I would like to consider, I guess we're only allowed to consider filling one of those vacancies tonight, because that's all we really posted for. But I'd like to have the discussion about it. If there's, if you could make the motion where we're appointing the people that we have, and then we'll make a second motion on the other, so we can have a discussion at least about these other people in the spot that's open.
Well, similar to what Mr. Vogel and I talked about for the Food Advisory Board, we just wanted a little more time. It's not that we won't consider these applicants, but we felt we hadn't really done a good job of recruiting. So there's no harm in having more applicants.
I think with the recovery, we didn't actually have anybody that
Food
filled-
Advisory.
Oh.
No food advisory, yeah.
Just a suggestion. That's my thoughts.
Any other discussion? And all in favor of that motion, let it be known by the raised hand. Okay, 5-0. Okay. All right, now, appointments to Senior Services Advisory Board, which I just read what you were supposed to read. Okay. So we took an action earlier to extend it to 16, and now we want to take an action to add these 3 individuals.
Now I move that we, I don't have the exact names here, but I move that we expand that committee to 16 and include the last 3 names that we had not put on.
Okay, for clarification, Teresa Standage, Carla Weber, and Mike Wilson.
Thank you.
All right, do we have a motion on that?
I move that we do
Okay,
that.
Ms. Eichner makes a motion. Anyone else for a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, second, Ms. Siegerman. Okay, any further discussion?
What was the motion? We're not expanding it. We've already expanded it to 16.
We're officially appointing the
Just
3.
Yeah, we're not adding another 3. These are the 3 that will make 16. Yeah, okay. All in favor, let it be known by the raised hand. Okay, thank you. Let's talk about any items for future agendas.
I have one.
Council members would like for us to look at on a future agenda.
I have one. I've been doing a lot of research on the homeless that we have in Kerrville, and I have, on our next council meeting, want to put together a report. It's not very long, but it's enlightening because I thought we had more than we have, We have, and I'll get into that more at our next council meeting, but that's what I'd like to put on the agenda for our next meeting.
Okay, all right. Anyone else?
Got one. I would like, on the next agenda, a discussion of selective enforcement.
Okay, all right. Selective enforcement, okay. All right. At this time, do I hear a motion to go into executive session according to 551.087?
I would make a motion that we go into executive session under 551087, economic development deliberation.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Okay. All in favor, let it be known by the raised hand. Okay. Folks, I don't know, this should not take long, and no action is anticipated when we come back. It's just executive issues. At 7:16, we are back in session. There was no action coming out of the executive session, and so at 7:16, we are adjourning.